Hello! Welcome to Human Design Center. I'm glad that we share a common interest in human design, the science of differentiation, the art of living your life according to your unique design and genetic matrix that sustains it. You have a unique cosmic imprint, and you may start learning about your uniqueness by listening and exploring the gates of your chart. Today, you are going to learn or recap, as the case may be, about Hexagram 18, work on what has been spoiled. Correction. Hexagram 18 is part of third trimester of Jupiter, trimester of duality, where we accomplish our purpose through relationships, connections, co-creating in relationships, according to mystical theme, measure for measure. Gate 18 corresponds to archetype Christ, revealing to us the Christian concept of divine love and compassion. This archetypal energy encourages a deep connection with oneself and others. This connection is based on, and it is achieved by inspiring unconditional love and compassion through spiritual awakening and unity with the divine, and embodying higher consciousness. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. It's about the harmonious and peaceful competition. This is an energy to be expressed through the themes of the third trimester of Jupiter, through relationships, as already mentioned earlier. Zodiac sign, Libra. Gate 18 flows within the collective, logic circuit, which is about future, sharing, understanding, projecting into the future, visualizing, about patterns, about being focused. Keyword, sharing. Center, spleen, which is an awareness center associated with lymphatic system and spleen. The spleen center represents instinct, intuition, fear, and immune system. This is also our oldest and most primal awareness center. This embodied consciousness awareness, allowing us to discern what is good for us and what isn't. Everything here starts with a basic fear, as a frequency, as an intelligence of the body. We will learn about fears in a future collection of courses that I prepare. It is said that fear coming out of this center can only be moved through taking action, but there is a difference between defined or undefined spleen center. The harmonic gate is number 58, the gate of vitality, being part of the projected channel 1858, the channel of judgment, a design of insatiability in maintaining the perfected form. Gate 58 brings the energy of optimism, an essential component of vitality. This channel is insatiable about improving, perfecting, correcting, and elevating all aspects of life, based on a deep sense of vitality and joy to the process. A tremendous energy to improve patterns. The opposite gate is number 17, following opinions. Amino acid, alanine. Relevant organ, lymphatic system. Tarot card associated, 9 of Swords. The alanine of gate 17 opposes the arginine in gate 18. You may observe this opposition between archetypes of Christ, alanine, and Michael, arginine. We talked about arginine in gate 17, and I invite you to listen gate 17. The relation between alanine and arginine is of great importance for the collective logic circuitry from the perspective of the channel of judgment and stream of taste. We'll dive deeper into it when we will learn the channels. The archetypal energy of Christ is embodied in the 4 gates of alanine, such as 46, 18, 48, 57, and it is of great importance for human health. Alanine is a non-essential amino acid, meaning the body can synthesize it from other compounds, primarily pyruvate and branched-chain amino acids. It plays a crucial role in metabolism, immune function, and energy production. Since pyruvate is a product of glycolysis, the breakdown of glucose, alanine synthesis is closely linked to carbohydrate metabolism, which is something to be remembered. Alanine is a key player in the glucose-alanine cycle, where it helps transport nitrogen from muscles to the liver. It gets converted into glucose in the liver, providing energy for muscles and other tissues. This function is especially important during intense exercise, fasting, or stress when the body needs extra fuel. This connection between glucose and alanine is crucial in the glucose-alanine cycle, which helps maintain blood sugar levels and remove toxic ammonia from muscles. Alanine is found in high amounts in muscle tissue and helps with muscle endurance and recovery. It supports protein synthesis and prevents muscle breakdown during prolonged activity. As for the immune system, alanine is an essential support, helping the production of antibodies, which are essential for a strong immune response. Thus, it contributes to the body's ability to fight infections and recover from illness. For detoxification process, based on nitrogen transport, alanine plays a role in removing excess nitrogen from the body, preventing toxic ammonia buildup. This supports liver health and overall metabolic balance. Our brain and nervous system function benefit from alanine, since this amino acid is involved in neurotransmitter balance, helping to regulate signals in the brain. Some studies suggest it may play a role in reducing anxiety and supporting cognitive function. Alanine and health benefits. Summary. 1. Supports athletic performance. Helps sustain energy and prevent muscle fatigue. Helps maintain muscle mass and function in elderly individuals. Reduces muscle fatigue and enhances endurance. 2. Boosts immune function. Aids in antibody production and immune defense. 3. Regulates blood sugar. Plays a role in glucose metabolism, benefiting those with diabetes or insulin resistance, stimulating glucagon release, which helps regulate blood sugar balance. 4. Supports brain health. May help with neurotransmitter function and mental clarity. Supports energy production, helping with fatigue and mental fog. Since the body can produce alanine, dietary intake is not essential, but consuming alanine-rich foods can support overall health. Some sources include animal sources like meat, fish, eggs, dairy, or plant-based sources such as vegetables, soy products, whole grains, nuts, seeds. So, since we've located the gate on the mandala and on the body graph, and we have a general summary of the essential characteristics of Gate 18, you also know the benefits of the amino acid associated with the behavior of this placement. You have the elements to keynote the message of this gate. If you have this gate active in your chart, take your time, compose the key phrase of this gate, and feel how it resonates. Leave a comment, share your insights and understandings. Now let's have a look to the energy of Gate 18, a gate of correction. Work on what has been spoilt. Correction, the vigilance and determination to uphold and defend basic and fundamental human rights. Gate 18, located in the spleen center, is a gate of correction, carrying the vigilance and determination to uphold and defend basic and fundamental human rights. That's because it is a gate of awareness, improvement, and integrity, driven by a deep desire to correct, refine, and make things better, whether in society, relationships, or personal development. Since this gate is in the spleen center, it carries a strong instinctive awareness. It knows what is healthy, fair, or correct in the present moment. They have potential for critical awareness, being highly attuned to noticing what is wrong or out of balance in the world. Those with this gate naturally spot flaws and injustices and feel a responsibility to correct them, a strong desire to improve. This very basic potential and quality of correcting, improving, is the essence of becoming a defender of truth and justice. This energy is deeply connected to standing up for fundamental human rights, fairness, and moral integrity. Here lies the drive to refine systems, structures, or even personal behaviors to create better outcomes for all. There is for sure a certain behavior and attitude in social and personal life of this gate people. Social activism and justice might be the concern of Gate 17, since people with this gate often feel a deep call to defend the oppressed, fight for human rights, and expose corruption or dishonesty. This gate can manifest as a strong inner or outer critic, always seeking to improve situations, but sometimes being overly critical of oneself or others. Based on all these qualities and potential, those with Gate 18 are natural advisors, teachers, or reformers, helping others grow by pointing out what needs to change, providing mentorship and guidance. The potential for fixing broken systems can be seen, whether in politics, education, medicine, or personal life. This energy drives people to repair and refine dysfunctional structures in these systems. In real life, any gate has this side and that side, so some challenges may come in your way, such as 1. Harsh self-criticism, that tendency to feel never good enough or overly focus on flaws. 2. Unsolicited criticism of others. If not invited, correction can come across as judgmental or controlling. 3. Perfectionism. Paralysis, when the desire to fix things can become overwhelming, leading to frustration or inaction. Learn your own way to know when to step back, because not everything needs fixing and not everyone wants correction. In the process of learning about your awareness in Gate 18, observe the spleen center. If it is defined, active in your chart, then you have a natural gift for seeing what's wrong and improving it. If it's undefined, open in your chart, you may be sensitive to criticism or seek external validation before making corrections. Also, fixing and correction operates differently when 18 is in a channel with 58 or not, or if 18 is an adverb gate for channel 48, 16, or 2750. These are nuances to be observed in a concrete chart, but we'll approach this in other learning materials. The key word here for this gate is the awareness of what is vital or not. If the correction is not going to bring you a sense of value, if it is not vital, just quit. Correction is not needed. Ra Uru Hu said that, I quote, "The awareness potential is to perfect via concentration. This is the place of salt in the body. It is where we store all of this possibility for correction." The 18th hexagram is related to the Oedipus and Electra complex because of its fear, the fear of authority. The first authorities we all meet are our parents. This is a natural place for this struggle for authority. The conflict between the male and the female, and the conflict between same sexes in the family structure. This challenge of authority, this generation gap that is here in the 18th gate. People having the 18th gate might say, "You should not smoke." It is true for everybody on earth that they should not smoke. That's because this is a collective experience, and the correction here is collective and it is shared. You should not smoke because it's a bad pattern for collective. It's about recognizing a pattern and correcting it for the betterment of society. Do not take it personally. Appreciating a job done by an 18th gate person sounds like this: "You did a great job." And 18th gate people respond, "No, I could have done better. I could have done this or that." You remember that it is not personal. It is a process in the collective circuitry. Correction is a process to be shared in the collective. It is not personal, and it has to be done in relation to patterns, not in relation to a certain process. Remember, it's about logic, objectivity. It's about taste in relation to patterns. Once corrected, it will bring benefit to all of us. Last but not least, the existential fear of authority is the primal basic intelligence of this gate. But this fear runs deeper than just fearing those in power. Fear of being judged or punished for speaking out. People with Gate 18 often see what's wrong in the world, but they may fear calling out authority figures, leaders, or systems that hold power. There's an underlying concern. If I challenge the system, will I be punished? Fear of making a mistake in front of authority. Since Gate 18 is all about correction and improvement, there can be a deep insecurity about being wrong. This can manifest as self-doubt when dealing with teachers, bosses, government officials, or even parental figures. Fear of being powerless or controlled. Those with this gate can have an instinctive mistrust of authority, especially when they sense corruption, injustice, or an abuse of power. This can lead to rebellion against rules or deep frustration when feeling powerless. Fear of criticism from authority. Since this gate is naturally critical, people with it may fear receiving criticism themselves, especially from those in power. This fear can lead to perfectionism, over-preparing, or avoiding confrontation. So, out of this fear, people with 18th gate may experience some challenges. Trying to be over-compliant, to please authority figures by following rules rigidly, even when they feel wrong. Feeling defensive, resistant, or distrustful toward leadership, and here they experience rebellion against authority. They do not want, maybe, to take on responsibilities due to a fear of criticism or failure. They constantly double-check work or words before presenting them to authority. They have difficulties trusting one's own judgment, always seeking external validation, struggling with self-authority. It's obvious now that the fear of authority in Gate 18 is deeply tied to the desire to fix and improve the world, but it can create inner conflict about when and how to challenge power structures. Learning to trust your own voice, intuition, and sense of justice can transform this fear into courage, wisdom, and impact, since this splenic fear is existential intelligence of the body. Walking through the 6 lines of the Gate 18, it's a process that will bring clarity to you in relation to nuances of the content and expression of the 18th gate. At the end, we will touch upon the crosses of incarnation, where Gate 18 plays its role when conscious sun is in this gate and become part of the purpose. Let's see the 6 stages of development of this energy and possible dualism in its manifestation. Gate 18, Line 1, Conservatism. In Line 1, we see the foundation of Gate 18, meaning this line carries a deep need for stability, tradition, and structure in the process of correction. There is a strong respect for established knowledge, systems, or traditions. People with this line trust what has worked in the past and may be hesitant to embrace new methods or changes without a solid foundation. It's about commitment to traditional patterns. Reading the first line of Gate 18, it may appear that it looks like the first lines of Gate 32 and 28, all of them in the spleen, as potentials. The 32.1 is conservation, the 28.1 is preparation, and here, in 18.1, we have conservatism. You can see the basic nature. Every time that you look at a line, you'll see the same framework. Disregard the gate, meaning for all first lines, it's about the need to establish the foundation for the whole hexagram. The foundation of the 18th gate is the adherence to traditional patterns despite changing circumstances. Since this is the first line, the need to establish a foundation, there is a natural fear of instability. This means people with Gate 18.1 may struggle with sudden changes and prefer to stick to what they know, even if the world around them is shifting. That is the fear of change without a secure base. First line learns best by studying history, traditions, or proven methods, making them deep thinkers and researchers in the pursuit of truth and improvement. Thus, they gain wisdom through experience. Rather than making impulsive corrections, they look at what has worked before and refine things based on past wisdom rather than new, untested approaches. Their correction is rooted in the past. On the other side, Gate 18, Line 1, has a dualistic expression, let's say, a shadow side, since correction is done with both positive or negative impact or behavior. So, from a different perspective, they might be resistant to change. Sticking to tradition too rigidly can make it difficult to adapt to new realities. Overly cautious in their approach. The fear of making a mistake can cause hesitation in correcting what needs fixing. Critical without flexibility, when the desire to correct can become too focused on the past, making it hard to accept new ways of thinking. Aside from dualism, this gate is also influenced by planets, either exalted or in detriment. Earth exalted. Gradual modification to avoid eventual upheaval. Jupiter in detriment. The patriarch whose rigidity guarantees deterioration. In the original I Ching, the 18th gate is called work on what has been spoilt by the father. The fact is that even in the original I Ching, there are several lines that were attributed directly to the mother. But this is not about the father, OT mother. It's about Yang, spoilt by the Yang, as the authority. So, in 18th gate, we will always have that challenge to authority, whether it is male or female, the potential to correct through gradual modifications of judgments. As I learned from Ra'uruhu explanations of this line, this gradual modification of judgments we see in ourselves when we become parents. It is about the way you feel about a parent when you become a parent yourself. In the original I Ching, that conservative authority was always the father figure. In our world, today, what you have to understand about this line is that in a woman, in a mother, authority operates through what is Yang in her. Again, it is the male and the female, not the father and mother in the strict sense of word, the potential to refuse to correct. These people say, my mother was always right, or my father is always right. It can be deeply conservative in that sense. It is trying to set the basis. Ra'uruhu said that the basis is that if the authority does not have to be corrected, then you have a pattern you can trust. That is what the logic is looking for. It is looking for a perfect pattern. A perfect pattern does not need any correction, and therefore, we can safely project into the future out of that pattern. The person on the detriment side says, my father's father was right, so I am right. This movement is going through there, and because of that, you can say, you listen to me because he was right with me, and I am right with you, to establish that authority. The potential to correct gradually. Maybe my father was not always right. What happens in the first line is that because it is setting the foundation, if it is deeply disturbed in the first line, the whole thing falls apart. This is all about correcting and challenging authority. First line people are very introspective and look into the nature of that and say, basically they were right, or we have to bring about some slow, gradual change in that. So Earth Exalted is about people recognizing that true correction doesn't always come from radical change, but rather through small, thoughtful adjustments over time, ensuring stability rather than chaos. In real life, practically speaking, it's about gradual modification to avoid upheaval. Like, for instance, people with this placement recognize that change is necessary, but it must be handled with care. Instead of drastic overhauls, they focus on subtle, incremental improvements that prevent major disruptions in life or society. This is a wise, strategic approach, understanding that sudden, extreme changes often cause resistance or instability. The potential to correct through gradual modification of judgments is seen when, rather than rushing to criticize or correct, this energy takes time to observe, analyze, and refine. So, corrections are made step by step, allowing for course adjustments rather than harsh or rigid judgments. This reflects a mature and patient approach, trusting that small, meaningful corrections lead to long-term success. We can see how this plays out to a social, professional, or personal level. A person with this energy would be a steady and wise leader, making changes progressively to ensure sustainability. Instead of harsh criticism in relationships and communication, they offer constructive feedback over time, allowing for smoother growth and change. They understand that self-improvement is a gradual process and don't pressure themselves or others into sudden transformations. As a social impact, their correctional energy is gentle but persistent, helping improve structures without causing instability. Do not forget about the risk of over-attachment to tradition. Avoid it. And while gradual modification is wise, sometimes bold action is needed to break free from unhealthy systems, according to your own strategy and authority. Now, the detriment when Jupiter is here. The patriarch, whose rigidity guarantees deterioration, the potential to refuse to correct. This placement describes a resistance to change and correction, leading to stagnation, decay, or dysfunction. In Jupiter's detriment, which typically governs growth, expansion, and wisdom, the expansive potential of correction, gate 18, is blocked by stubbornness, rigidity, and an unwillingness to evolve. The word patriarch here symbolizes strict authority, tradition, and a belief in absolute correctness. This line warns against holding on to outdated beliefs, methods, or systems simply because they are traditional. Rigidity leads to the deterioration. If something is not continually refined, it will break down over time. The potential to refuse to correct, it can play out in so many ways, such as, instead of embracing growth, improvement, or evolution, there is a stubborn refusal to admit mistakes or make necessary changes. This can manifest as pride, arrogance, or a fear of losing control by accepting corrections. There may be an underlying fear of change, leading to clinging to the past rather than adapting. Given all these traits, the energy of 18.1 manifests in life, usually as authoritarian thinking. A person with this placement may believe in, "my way is the only way," resisting input from others. There is also a fear of being wrong, a deep avoidance of criticism, leading to an inability to self-correct. It's about holding on to outdated systems. Whether in leadership, personal beliefs, or relationships, there is a refusal to adjust, even when change is necessary. Finally, they risk a deterioration in health, work, or relationships, since without correction and refinement, things fall apart over time, whether it's bad habits, ineffective leadership, or unbalanced relationships. As a final idea for this gate, either in detriment or exaltation, remember that it's about building correction on a solid foundation, respecting what works while learning how to adapt without fear. The challenge is knowing when tradition is valuable and when change is necessary to create real improvement. Gate 18, line 2, terminal disease. I repeat for those of you who listen this line, skipping the first part of this material, that in human design, gate 18 is the gate of correction, located in the splenic center. It carries an energy that is deeply concerned with improvement, seeing what is incorrect or unhealthy and wanting to fix it. This gate is part of the logic circuit, which means it is focused on patterns, analyzing what isn't working, and refining it for the benefit of the collective. Key theme for this second line is the recognition that what has been spoiled is irreversible. There is no way to correct it. This line suggests an awareness that some problems, patterns, or flaws cannot be fixed, no matter how much effort is put into correcting them. There is a deep lesson here about acceptance, understanding when something has reached its limit and must be let go instead of endlessly trying to fix it. For someone with this line, you might naturally see where things are off or need correction, but this line teaches that not everything can be saved or repaired. Sometimes, the healthiest thing is to acknowledge when something is beyond fixing. Splenic awareness. Since gate 18 is in the spleen, this insight often comes as an intuitive knowing in the present moment, without needing logical proof. There is this risk of getting stuck in frustration or negativity, trying to fix something that is fundamentally unchangeable, instead of accepting imperfections and knowing when to move on rather than wasting energy. That would be the real wisdom. In practical context, you may observe that. In relationships, it may mean accepting that some dynamics can't be improved. In work, it can mean knowing when to stop perfecting something that is already good enough. In health, it may represent an intuitive awareness of physical limitations or the natural aging process. Now, since we are in the place of a second line, we come to projection. Ra Uruhu said that here is simply the need to project, the need for correction outwards. That is why it is the classic line of the bitch. The moment we have projection without any detail, we get all kinds of confrontations and problems that come out of that. End of quote. Pluto exalted. Acceptance and strength derive from a faith in spiritual regeneration. The message here is to quit all that business about correcting it and see if you can find your own inner value and quality. Accept that not everything needs to be corrected. Ignore, forget about the authority that bothers you. Get your strength from within yourself. In the White Book, the acceptance that there is no potential for correction. The obvious meaning is that not everything needs to be corrected. Accept that it is not something bad. It's all right for you to see that there is no way to correct it. So move on. Just deal with other things that can be corrected. Pluto, exalted. Acceptance and strength derive from a faith in spiritual regeneration. The acceptance that there is no potential for correction. And the theme of this line, the recognition that what has been spoiled is irreversible. This exaltation represents a profound spiritual maturity, the ability to recognize when something has run its course and let go with faith that transformation will follow. Pluto, as the planet of deep transformation, brings an awareness that even when something cannot be fixed, there is still meaning, growth, and rebirth beyond it. This exalted Pluto brings acceptance and strength derived from a faith in spiritual regeneration. This suggests an inner resilience, the ability to face difficult truths without resistance. There is a trust in the cycle of life, that endings lead to new beginnings, even if the form is different than expected. This is not about giving up, but rather about surrendering to what is, without fear, transcending the fear. The acceptance that there is no potential for correction. What is to be understood from this line is that while Gate 18 is normally about improvement and correction, this line acknowledges that some things cannot be fixed. Instead of wasting energy trying to correct what is broken, the highest expression here is to accept and release. This can relate to relationships, outdated beliefs, physical health, or systems that have outlived their purpose. This placement in Pluto brings wisdom, deepening the lesson of this line, since Pluto rules transformation, destruction, and rebirth. The wisdom is in knowing when to stop trying to correct and instead trust in a greater process managed by Pluto. Letting go doesn't mean failure. It means stepping into a new cycle. In your real life, this can show up in healthy attitudes, such as accepting that a relationship, job, or project has reached its natural end, recognizing that certain patterns, whether personal or collective, are beyond fixing, trusting that after loss, struggle, or failure, something new will eventually emerge. Let's move on to the detriment. Moon is in detriment in this line, the futile raging against the wind. When the moon is in detriment in this line, it creates emotional resistance to the truth that some things are beyond fixing. Instead of gracefully accepting what cannot be changed, as seen in Pluto's exaltation of this line, the moon in detriment here struggles to let go, leading to frustration, exhaustion, and emotional turmoil. You may want to hear the words of Ra Uruhu on this detriment. This father and mother of mine are horrible, and I want to change them. They have to change, but they do not listen to me. I keep on telling them that they have to change. It does not work. It is just this endless projecting outwards. That becomes an illness in and of itself. We are dealing with the splenic system after all. The raging against the wind builds up all kinds of tensions within the body. End of quote. You understood that this line, the futile raging against the wind, paints the image of someone fighting an unwinnable battle. No matter how much energy is spent trying to correct the situation, the wind, life, fate, reality, is stronger. It suggests a wasted effort, A refusal to surrender when surrender is actually the wisest path. On the other side, in the detriment we have the refusal to accept that there is no potential of correction. These people do not give up. They will not let go of it. They just keep on projecting. You know that second lines do not see what's really on the other side. They are limited in their ability to understand the other side. They do not know what it takes to deal with the other side and what the circumstances of the other side are. This is why they drive you crazy when they keep on projecting and do not let go of it. Do you have in mind a situation that fits in this detriment? It is about those who want to correct the posture of a person with a spine deformity or to correct the way somebody walks due to a deformity from birth. If you want to correct them, there is no way of changing that reality. It's a deformity that will never change. If you keep on insisting to correct, to change, to improve, you will drive everyone crazy. Ra Uru Hu commented that there is a point in which this can become enormously painful for anybody who has to deal with it, and these people will turn it on themselves. The 18th gate is notorious for taking itself seriously and getting very personal about the nature of what their correction is supposed to be. They can become obsessed. I refuse. It has to be corrected. He has to fix it. The whole world must stop smoking. So, the refusal to accept that there is no potential for correction, it's a line where you have to recognize that. Instead of acknowledging that something is beyond repair, the person keeps trying. This can manifest as obsession with fixing something, whether it's a relationship, a system, or a personal flaw. It can lead to burnout, frustration, or disappointment when reality doesn't conform to expectations. Moon in detriment in this line can bring in your life both wisdom and challenges, since there is a dualistic expression of everything. The shadow side is about holding on to false hope, believing things will change when they won't. Resistance to endings, when people do not accept that some cycles must complete. Emotional turmoil, feeling drained, bitter, or frustrated by repeated failed attempts at fixing. Wisdom expression of this detriment comes with recognizing that some things are meant to end, not be repaired. Finding peace and letting go rather than fighting a losing battle. Learning to trust the natural cycle of life, meaning that destruction often leads to transformation. Just ponder on these expressions of moon and detriment in Gate 18.2 and try to answer to some questions for yourself. Did you try to fix a toxic or one-sided relationship instead of accepting its natural end? Did you pour energy into something that has already failed instead of moving on? Did you struggle to fix deep-seated wounds or flaws instead of accepting them and finding a new way forward? You see, this placement of the moon in detriment can cause emotional distress when faced with irreversible situations. The challenge here is to stop resisting the inevitable and instead find strength in acceptance and release. Gate 18, Line 3, the Zealot. So, what do we know until now? Located in the splenic center, Gate 18 is about recognizing what is unhealthy, flawed, or incorrect, and wanting to improve it. It's part of the logic circuit, which is focused on pattern recognition and refinement for the collective good. Let's add the value of this line, the Zealot. This line takes the correcting energy of Gate 18 to an extreme level, where the desire to fix, correct, and cleanse becomes almost obsessive. The term zealot suggests someone who is driven by a passionate, relentless need to purify and improve. We also know that the third line recognizes that there is something on the other side of the channel, and it figures out a way to deal with or to adapt to that. The third line is in the emotional wave of bonds made and broken, and when you bring the two elements together, it can be irresponsible. It can get involved in a correction and then suddenly quit. That is also a part of it. The energetic obsession to clean house. This is not just about literal cleaning or literal cleaning of the house. It's about fixing, purging, purifying, and eliminating what is seen as wrong or impure. And anyway, these are very good house cleaners. The person with this line may feel an urgent need to correct people, systems, or environments. There can be a deep discomfort with disorder, whether that's in relationships, social structures, or personal habits. There is also possible to have distortions of this energy. These people may become so obsessed with correcting things that it leads to exhaustion, stress, or alienating others. Their attitude might become judgmental, seeing everything as wrong or impure and pushing too hard to fix it. They feel like nothing is ever good enough. This is why constantly refine everything, and they are never satisfied. Highest expression of this line is really possible in the life of this third line by using the sharp awareness to improve the things in a healthy way without becoming obsessive. Also, discernment is a high quality that helps knowing what to correct and what to leave alone. If your purpose is not correcting for the sake of correcting without discernment, if you embrace the higher purpose, helping others to evolve, then you will succeed to guide people toward healthier habits or better systems without forcing them. Gate 18, line 3, carries intense correction energy. When balanced, it can bring powerful transformation to life. However, if it turns into obsession or control, it can create stress and resistance from others. The key is learning when to correct and when to let go. Otherwise, you run the risk of alienating others from your life. Correct the pattern. Do not try to correct a person. You'd better say, I know this is done, usually in a certain way to obtain results. I've seen this pattern. It's working. It is not advisable to say, you are doing it right, or you are wrong, and because you do not listen to what I say is correct, then you will not obtain results. That's correction with personal destination. This correction does not target a pattern. Neptune exalted. The dissolution of old forms at an acceptable price. This is about saying, if I cannot correct anything else, I will sweep the floor and make sure that everything is nice and clean. The willingness is there no matter what the correction is about. Neptune, the planet of illusion, spirituality, and transcendence, influences this line by bringing a dreamlike, higher perspective to correction. However, Neptune's energy can also be blurry or extreme, making it difficult to see where to draw the line between necessary reform and obsessive destruction. This theme of dissolution of old forms at an acceptable price suggests a deep inner knowing that some things must be broken down to be improved. However, the key here is balance, knowing how much to dissolve and what price is too high to pay. There is an urge to transform outdated structures, relationships, or habits, but it must be done wisely to avoid unnecessary destruction. Let's break down the White Book meaning, an obsession with correction and its critical potential. It's about obsession with fixing things. This energy doesn't just notice what's wrong, it fixates on it. There is also a critical potential which can manifest as a powerful ability to analyze and refine, but it can also turn into judgment and harshness. And remember that it is both toward oneself or others. If balanced, this can lead to massive improvement. If uncontrolled, it can feel like never-ending dissatisfaction. Neptune's illusion in this line may bring, at the lowest manifestation of this exaltation, destructive correction, meaning you fix things to the point of excess, losing sight of what's truly important. You may never be satisfied, constantly seeing flaws, never appreciating what is good enough. You experience harsh criticism, being overly judgmental toward oneself and others, leading to unnecessary tension. But it's about you if Neptune manifests its higher potential in this line. Knowing when and how to refine things without excessive destruction will bring a transformative correction. Based on balanced discernment, you have the opportunity to choose what truly needs to be improved and what can be accepted. It's up to you and other placements in your chart if you grab this opportunity or not. When you use this sharp awareness to help others grow without being overly critical, your guidance becomes constructive and therefore useful. in relation to this line in the White Book, An Obsession with Correction and Its Critical Potential, you'd like to hear maybe the wise words of Ra-Uru Hu. Please recognize that, no matter how difficult it sounds, our collective would be lost without this because it would have no basis for our talents. There is no logic talent without this critical capacity, the perfecting capacity, this need to correct, this need to challenge the authority. Everybody would still write music in its original form. Everybody would dance the way we first danced. Nothing would have grown without this correcting capacity. Nobody would have said, "I judge that to be lousy. Let me show you what is good." End of quote. A final idea to be remembered. Gate 18, line 3, with Neptune exalted, carries a powerful energy for transformation. The challenge is learning when correction is needed and when it's time to let go. The highest expression of this line is to dissolve old, ineffective patterns in a way that is conscious, measured, and beneficial without unnecessary destruction. The detriment. Jupiter is in detriment in this third line of Gate 18, rigid judgmentation that creates as many problems as it solves. I know that this has to be corrected, whether you like it or not. The you, on the other end, has to provide the energy for correction. If you are the 18 and you do not have the vital energy of the 58, all you can do is complain. You don't have the capacity to do anything about it because you are not being energized. Jupiter, the planet of expansion, wisdom, and belief systems, is in detriment here, meaning its usual qualities of growth and optimism are distorted into dogmatic, rigid correction energy. Instead of bringing wisdom and balance, it can manifest as harsh, unyielding judgment that leads to frustration and dissatisfaction. Breaking it down, this detriment, rigid judgment that creates as many problems as it solves, this means the need to correct becomes so rigid and extreme that it causes new issues instead of resolving them. Instead of improving things, it may break things apart, alienate people, or create more dysfunction. There is a lack of flexibility, making it hard to see when perfection is not necessary. In the White Book, an obsession with correction that does not bring satisfaction. These people have correcting energy and they get the chance to correct something. But what happens is that the correction is never good enough. It is this, yes, and so what? This thing that we just corrected needs further corrections. Let's correct more. Let's continue. It's not enough. This detriment was in the chart of Adolf Hitler. A short synthesis of the main ideas for this detriment. An obsession with correction that does not bring satisfaction. So, even after fixing things, there's still a feeling of dissatisfaction. It's never good enough. The person may constantly see flaws and imperfections, making it difficult to appreciate what is already working. This can lead to burnout, frustration, and conflict with others who feel judged or pressured. Jupiter's detriment in this line is about perfectionism and harsh judgment, meaning these people see mistakes everywhere and feel compelled to fix them, no matter the cost, and to fix the correction they did, because it's not enough. They never feel satisfied, always finding something that still needs work, leading to frustration. They push others too hard to improve, making them feel judged rather than supported, thus straining their relationships. To fix for the sake of fixing results in correcting things that don't actually need correction. This is how people with this detriment create unnecessary problems. This detriment can lead to feeling not good enough on a personal level, lead to conflicts in relationships. In career and society, you are drawn to fixing broken systems, but struggle when things don't change fast enough or perfectly. Gate 18, line 4, the incompetent. We know that Gate 18, located in the splenic center, is about recognizing flaws, distortions, and unhealthy patterns and wanting to correct them. It's part of the logic circuit, meaning it's focused on improving systems and behaviors for the collective good. To this very basic message of 18th gate, Line 4 introduces a major challenge: the inability to correct something due to a lack of skill, knowledge, or capacity, either within the individual or within the system itself. When we get to the fourth line, we get to the beginning of the upper trigram. This line is called the incompetent. The nature of fourth lines is to externalize, which means that these lines are very fixed on a specific aspect, and they can really see the other part of the channel. There is a similarity with second line, and in some way this line is very reminiscent of the way in which the second line play out. Difficulties as a result of inadequacies that cannot be resolved because of inadequacies. For the time being, I'll quote from Ra Uruhu, line companion, and then we break down the themes of this line. I quote, "What this generally means for these people is that they will have a specific thing they want to correct. There are all kinds of other things they are able to correct in their life, but the one thing that they really want to correct, they can't, because they are inadequate to do that." By the way, the moment that they meet somebody that has the 48 and they get into contact with the well, this can relieve inadequacy. The fear of inadequacy is in the 48th gate, which is the next step in the stream. Remember that we are looking at gates that are potentials in a 4-gate stream. Here we have the potential of this awareness. The thing to recognize is that the awareness alone, this one thing that they cannot correct because of inadequacy, can come into contact with the necessary depth. That is always possible. All lines can ultimately be the exact mirrors of what they say. End of quote. Difficulties as a result of inadequacies. What it means is that problems arise due to a lack of competence, either in oneself, others, or the situation at hand. There may be a desire to fix things, but the person may lack the necessary tools, understanding, or influence to actually do so. The theme that cannot be resolved because of inadequacies. The frustration in this line comes from the fact that the flaws are obvious, but they cannot be corrected because the means to fix them are also flawed. It creates a loop of dysfunction. Things need to be improved, but the available resources, skills, or circumstances don't allow for it. This can lead to frustration, resignation, or the feeling of being stuck. Well, if you do not recognize the specific limitation of this gate, you may feel powerless when you see problems, but you are unable to fix them. Maybe you have the tendency to blame oneself or others, thinking, if only I were smarter, more skilled, more influential, I could fix this. This could be a mindset that led you to giving up on improvement because it feels impossible, to resignation or cynicism. Because the root inadequacy is never properly addressed, you see yourself repeating the same mistakes. As for your personal growth, it could be about feeling stuck in bad habits or limiting beliefs but struggling to change them due to lack of knowledge or resources. But you need to know that every line has a dualistic manifestation. You can embrace the wisdom side by recognizing limitations, accepting when correction isn't possible, and focusing on what can be improved. Also, understanding that no one can fix everything alone, and learning to ask for help. Seeking collaboration will help with getting unstuck, eliminating some frustration. It's also a sign of wisdom in this fourth line when you succeed to shift perspective, meaning that instead of obsessing over what can't be fixed, focusing on what is within reach. Gate 18, line 4, carries a painful awareness of flaws and the struggle to correct them due to internal or external limitations. The key is to accept what cannot be changed, focus on small, meaningful improvements, and seek support from others rather than struggling alone. Earth exalted. Given this negative position, survival through suffering, the inability to correct and its potential for suffering. What you hear from people with this placement is, I just cannot make it better. I cannot fix this. I cannot correct it. I am not able to come up with a solution to this. There is nothing I can do about this. I am incompetent. And for this reason, they are upset. And they really suffer about this. This is the painful paradox of this line 4. The awareness of what needs correction, but the lack of ability skill, or resources to fix it. This creates frustration, suffering, and a sense of being stuck in problems that seem unchangeable. The earth in exaltation here represents grounded endurance, the ability to withstand pain and hardship even when improvement is impossible. However, it also highlights the emotional, mental, or even physical suffering that comes from being unable to correct something that is clearly broken. Let's break down the theme of exalted earth. Given this negative position, survival through suffering. This suggests that correction is simply not possible in this situation. The challenge is not about fixing, it's about learning how to endure and survive the difficulty. It can feel like being trapped in a dysfunctional relationship, job, family system, or society where change isn't an option. The inability to correct and its potential for suffering. The pain comes from knowing that things should be different, but being powerless to change them. This can lead to deep frustration, hopelessness, or even self-doubt. If only I were better, maybe I could fix this. The suffering isn't just about the flaw itself, but about the emotional weight of seeing the problem, but being unable to act on it. A balanced expression of this line is about learning to survive and even grow through difficulty, understanding that some things cannot be fixed, and that's okay. It's part of real life. When you shift your focus, when you put energy into what can be influenced, you get rid of that obsession over what can't be corrected. Shift your focus toward what can still be nurtured and improved. When you do not recognize that inability, inadequacy in relation to correcting and improving process, this impacts your personal growth. You continue struggling with the inner wounds or bad habits that seem impossible to heal, leading to frustration. You may enter into relationships that are deeply flawed but resistant to change, requiring emotional endurance. You see broken systems in workplaces, governments, or cultures, but you lack the power to fix them, this leading to existential frustration. This is why I repeat, you have to understand, accept that some things cannot be corrected, cannot be fixed, and this a natural part of your life. Get some wisdom out of this. Shift your focus, take care of your inner qualities and personal growth. I know how this line works. I have Pluto in this line. I am concentrated on personal goals, hobbies. I have my own personal space and personal time to retreat and mind my own business. This is a way of shifting focus. I got accomplishments and fulfillment from being myself. A very efficient strategy is to transform any discomfort or frustration of this line into great advantages for yourself. If you cannot correct or fix that specific something in your life, I'm sure you can find ways to correct your frustration, suffering, discomfort that you experience if you have this fourth line. This was about sharing my own personal experience and perspective on this line. Indeed, Gate 18, Line 4, with Earth exalted, brings a painful but profound lesson. Not everything can be fixed, and sometimes survival itself is the victory. The suffering that comes from seeing the problem but lacking the means to correct, it is real, but the path to wisdom lies in learning to endure, finding inner resilience, and shifting focus toward what can still be nurtured and improved. Mercury in detriment, indecision and anxiety, and no escape from misfortune. The demands of correction and its potential to generate anxiety. You know that you have one thing that you cannot correct. The advice of Ra'uruhu on this detriment is, I quote, "When you see this line, be very careful about that. Don't see that as meaning that they are incompetent with everything. That is not true. So often, when people see this line, they think that it is saying that they are incompetent to correct their general process. This is not true. Everything about the fourth line is about being fixed. You have to ask these people, what is this one thing that you want to fix that you can't, and see that isolated from the rest which you can work with. The inability to correct and its potential for suffering, or the demands of correction and its potential to generate anxiety. We already talked about anxiety, and indeed, with this detriment, you can become very anxious if there is this one thing that one cannot fix. This is the difficulty of the fourth line. Again, we can get real insights from the words of Ra-Uruhu in Line Companion. The fourth line can recognize incompetence everywhere because they know what it is like for them. This is true for every line that you read and think, oh my God, these poor people. The lines have their positive and negative, and every line is a duality. These are processes that we go through, and whatever line you have, it is yours. Enjoy it. End of quote. Now, breaking down the theme of Mercury and detriment. Indecision and anxiety, and no escape from misfortune. The demands of correction and its potential to generate anxiety. Mercury, the planet of communication, logic, and mental processing, is in detriment here, meaning its usual clarity and adaptability are weakened or distorted. Instead of using logic to solve problems, the mind becomes overwhelmed with anxiety, indecision, and a sense of being trapped in misfortune. Thinking about this, indecision and anxiety and no escape from misfortune. This suggests a mental loop of overanalyzing problems without finding solutions. Indecision arises because every possible action seems flawed, leading to paralysis. Anxiety builds because there is an acute awareness of what is wrong, but no clear way out. This can feel like being stuck in a system, relationship, or mindset that is deeply flawed, but having no way to fix or escape it. The theme, the demands of correction and its potential to generate anxiety, comes with the pressure to fix what is broken. This pressure becomes overwhelming, leading to mental and emotional distress. There is a deep fear of failure, of not being able to correct what desperately needs fixing. This theme is about causing self-doubt and a sense of inadequacy, as if one is constantly falling short. With the Mercury's detriment in this line, there is a risk of paralysis by analysis, getting stuck in indecision, never acting because no option seems right. Just concentrate on small, actionable steps. Balance the expression of this line by accepting imperfection, find inner peace despite flaws, and release the unnecessary pressure by the understanding that some things will resolve in their own time without forcing solutions. Gate 18, Line 5, Therapy. The strength to recognize a problem and to accept that it is beyond one's power to solve it alone. The fifth line is the universalization line, and we are in the collective process. So the process of this line collectively universalized. A fifth line is the ultimate expression and potential of what a hexagram is all about. The inherent idea of this line theme is that what correction represents is either of enormous value or it can make you very ill. This is the only place where the word therapy exists. So, this has a lot to do with what we call therapeutic sciences or work that is done in our society. This is the basic understanding you need to grasp before breaking down the theme of this therapy line. Line 5 brings a major shift in perspective. Instead of obsessively trying to correct everything alone, like line 3, or feeling stuck in inadequacy, like line 4, line 5 acknowledges a key truth. Some problems are too big to fix alone, and asking for help is necessary. Now, there is the strength to recognize a problem. This represents maturity and wisdom, being able to see an issue clearly without denying or avoiding it. It suggests self-awareness, understanding and accepting, in a realistic way, that there is something that needs to be improved or healed. Second part of the theme, and to accept that it is beyond one's power to solve it alone. This is the most important lesson of line 5, where they learn that seeking help is a sign of strength, not weakness. It requires humility and trust, realizing that some problems need external guidance, expertise, or support to be fully corrected. This could mean seeking therapy, mentorship, professional advice, or collective collaboration instead of trying to do it all alone. For sure, there are people with 18.5 in their chart, avoiding the lessons of line 5. Avoidance can play out in their life by refusing help, believing that one must fix everything alone, leading to frustration or burnout. There is a possibility of denial of problems, since they do not seek therapy, coaching, or external input, even when needed. They think that needing support means weakness or failure. Fully embracing line 5's potential brings wisdom and softens the resistance in your life. So, for learning the relevant lesson of the 5th line, you have to understand that outside support can accelerate healing and correction, and seeking therapy or guidance is not weakness. Working with others who have the right skills, knowledge, or experience, it's beneficial for you. You can empower others, becoming a guide or therapist for people, using personal struggles as wisdom. In your career, you have to come to the understanding that great leaders delegate and seek expert advice instead of trying to do everything alone. As for your social life or impact, recognize that social, systemic problems require collective action, not just individual effort. Saturn exalted. The wisdom to both seek and provide guidance. The potential for correction and judgment through relationships. What is obvious is that correction is rooted in relationships. What we know about 5th line is that this line knows that, apart from the gate, there is a stream and a circuit, and it wants to correct others and needs correction as well. This is the universalization of correction. It is projected on this line that they correct people, they correct the other. Saturn here, in exaltation in this line, as the planet of discipline, structure, and responsibility, brings maturity, wisdom, and the ability to both receive and offer guidance in the correction process. This placement emphasizes that real growth and healing happen through relationships, mentorship, and seeking the right support systems. The wisdom to both seek and provide guidance. This line matures the energy of correction. It is no longer about fixing things alone, like earlier lines. Instead, it realizes that true correction happens through relationships. There is an understanding that learning and teaching go hand in hand, seeking guidance when needed, but also offering wisdom to others. This is the energy of a mentor, therapist, or guide, someone who both learns correction and teaches correction through experience. The potential for correction and judgment through relationships. This line highlights the importance of relationships as a mirror for self-improvement. We learn best through feedback, constructive criticism, and the wisdom of others. It suggests that certain relationships serve as catalysts for deep correction and growth, whether through therapy, mentorship, or simply being in relationships that challenge us. Healthy judgment plays a role, being able to discern who to trust for guidance and also learning to offer correction in a way that empowers rather than criticizes. When you ignore Saturn's lessons, you refuse guidance, believing one must handle everything alone. You judge others harshly rather than offering constructive help, and you do not step into a mentorship role when others need guidance. That's avoiding responsibility. So, Gate 18, Line 5, with Saturn exalted, is a powerful lesson in wisdom, humility, and the role of relationships in correction. It teaches that true growth happens through guidance, both receiving and offering it. Those with this energy are here to seek wisdom from others, refine themselves, and eventually step into roles of leadership and mentorship where they can guide others toward improvement. Uranus in detriment, the mental patient, chronic instability, and potential madness, where relationships cannot assist in correction, the potential of mental instability. Uranus, the planet of rebellion, unpredictability, and radical change, is in detriment here, meaning its usual qualities of innovation and awakening become erratic, unstable, and difficult to integrate. This placement suggests that when one cannot find the right guidance or refuses to accept help, it can lead to deep instability, confusion, or even mental distress. The mental patient, chronic instability, and potential madness. This tells us that without the stabilizing influence of guidance, mentorship, or relationships, the energy of correction becomes overwhelming and chaotic. There may be an obsession with fixing things, but no clear way to do so, leading to frustration, anxiety, or even psychological distress. The term mental patient does not literally mean insanity, but rather a state of mind where thoughts become erratic, obsessive, or disconnected from reality. This can manifest as self-destructive patterns, an inability to trust others, or cycles of perfectionism that never resolve. Where relationships cannot assist in correction, the potential of mental instability. This highlights the danger of isolation. When someone rejects support or cannot find the right people to help them, they may spiral into unhealthy mental states. It can also indicate a distrust of authority, therapy, or external wisdom, leading to a sense of being lost, with no way to improve or correct what feels wrong. Correction energy turned inward without guidance can become self-critical, obsessive, or even self-destructive. Low expression of Uranus in detriment is about believing that no one can truly understand or assist, about feeling overwhelmed by correction energy, leading to anxiety, paranoia, or obsessive thinking. There is also the tendency to isolation, withdrawing from relationships, mentors, or community, and struggling alone. You have the possibility to balance the influence of Uranus by recognizing the need for support, actively seeking relationships or guidance to prevent self-destructive correction patterns. Also, it is useful to find unconventional solutions. Since Uranus rules innovation, seeking alternative healing methods, e.g., holistic therapy, spiritual guidance, or creative expression, can help. Breaking free from toxic self-judgment and learn that not everything needs to be fixed immediately. For this theme of the Uranian side, the mental patient, chronic instability, and potential madness, I quote the words of Ra Uruhu, which is always a pleasure. Where would the therapist be without their crazy patient? And they both have the same line. Think about that, folks. That is very funny. The therapist and the crazy patient are the same. I have seldom met a therapist who was saner than their patients. It simply does not work. They are simply subjectively, relatively nuts in different ways. They are exactly the same and mirrors of each other, and that mirror is here in therapy, where relationships cannot assist in correcting the potential of mental instability, the need on one side to correct the unstable, and the need of the unstable to be corrected by the other. This is all built within this fifth line. The nature of this hexagram, in the end, is all about the protection of fundamental human rights, to find a common ground in which it is possible for us to have a secure pattern which we can live in the future so that we can evolve safely. This is all about finding the solution. Here you have somebody who is always ready to correct the other. They are not ready to correct themselves. In the detriment, you have the other that is waiting for them to come and correct them. They all belong in the same bag. End of quote. I told you that it's a pleasure, an insightful one. Gate 18, line 6, Buddhahood, the perfected form. By line 6, we reach the highest expression of Gate 18, the potential for mastery, transcendence, and wisdom beyond correction itself. Here, in 6th line, we are on the roof of the house, as in any 6th line. This line is called Buddhahood, the perfected form, and it's about people assuming that everything is correct, whether it is or not. Buddhahood. This word is not religious, but symbolic. It refers to enlightenment, wisdom, and a deep acceptance of reality as it is. Once this line is reached, the energy of correction has been fully mastered. There is no longer an obsessive need to fix things, but rather a calm and wise discernment about what truly matters. Instead of endless fixing, there is now clarity, awareness, and peace with the natural imperfection of life. The perfected form is not about being flawless. It's about realizing that perfection is a state of acceptance and balance. True mastery comes not from endlessly fixing, but from knowing when correction is needed and when things are already whole. This represents the wisdom to guide others, not by aggressively correcting them, but by embodying a state of presence and understanding. There is also a distortion of this sixth line that is possible in your life. This is an energy that brings disconnection from reality, believing oneself to be above correction or refusing to engage in improvement at all. The unbalanced energy of line 6 is still seeking the perfected form externally instead of realizing it is an inner state. Withdrawing from the world is also about the shadow side of sixth line. You withdraw because you think enlightenment means detachment instead of engaged wisdom. The wisdom of sixth line comes from mastery over correction, knowing when to refine and when to let go. True leadership, guiding others through presence and understanding rather than criticism. Acceptance and discernment, realizing that the world is already whole, even with its imperfections. Gate 18, line 6, represents the highest potential of correction, not through endless fixing, but through wisdom, discernment, and acceptance of what is. Buddhahood is the realization that perfection already exists in the natural flow of life. This is the path of the true master, one who no longer seeks to correct everything, but instead embodies the wisdom of knowing when to act and when to simply be. Mars exalted. The Buddha said state of the eternal child and the energy to find new horizons to avoid stasis, the potential of the perfected form through correction. These people say that everything is correct. What else is going to happen in this life? What is in the future for us? This exaltation carries two key ideas. 1. The Buddha state of the eternal child. 2. The energy to find new horizons to avoid stasis. The first one, the Buddha state of the eternal child, suggests a fusion of wisdom, Buddha, and playfulness, eternal child. The Buddha state represents mastery and enlightenment, but it is not rigid. It is fluid, open, and accepting. The eternal child brings the energy of curiosity, play, and a constant willingness to explore and refine, rather than becoming stagnant or overly serious. This is not an obsessive, rigid correction energy anymore. It has evolved into a joyful, wise approach to improvement, one that is flexible, adaptive, and in tune with the natural flow of life. The lesson here is, perfection is not about control. It's about fluid growth, openness, and finding joy in evolution. As I already said, everything is correct. What else is going to emerge in this life? What's the future about for us? The second key theme, the energy to find new horizons to avoid stasis. This is where Mars's exaltation comes in. Mars is the planet of drive, action, and momentum. In this position, Mars provides the energy of action to keep evolving rather than getting stuck in perfectionism or stagnation. Correction isn't a destination, it's a continuous journey. Once one level of refinement is reached, there is always another horizon to explore. That's a detached energy about the correction process. True mastery isn't about stopping, it's about keeping the energy alive through exploration, discovery, and new perspectives, the natural flow of life. We come to the last theme, the potential of the perfected form through correction. The lesson here is that perfection isn't a static state, it's an ongoing dance of life itself. The highest form or framework of correction is adaptable. Mars's exaltation ensures that we don't stop growing or refining. There's always a next step, a new horizon, a new way to evolve. I think you can gain the power of creativity with this line if you'll learn the lesson of constantly innovating and improving, but without the burden of perfectionism. It's just a thought. Moon in detriment. The mundane application of the above. The ability to tap public opinion and share methodology. A person with placement says, "Let me show you how my life is perfect." Or, "Let me explain why this works for me and it's perfect in my life." They communicate that nothing needs to be corrected. Everything is great. The other theme of this is the potential to share the values of the correction with others. In other words, since I told you my life is perfect, let me share with you by telling you why is perfect. Here, Ra Uruhu shares some great details. I quote, "By the way, if you have this in your design, whether you are male or female, you need somebody who is much more mature than you, who is older than you as a lover. This is really about the child in its relationship to authority. It is very much, in a sense, the young child's way of looking at life. Everything is correct and okay. If you ask them why they feel so good, they will tell you that the grass grows green. They will share their methodology with you. They are not interested in this corrective process. What they really want is to be spoilt. This is not work on what has been spoilt. This is, please spoil me. Buy me nice presents. Take me out to dinner. Treat me like a child. Give me my bath. They get what they want out of everybody." If you look at the fuel at the other side, it is called getting carried away. It can be very nice, except that you have to serve them all the time. End of quote. Now let's break down this detriment. The moon, in astrology, represents emotion, intuition, and collective consciousness. When it is in detriment in this line, its usual depth and sensitivity become more surface level, practical, and focused on external validation rather than deep wisdom. This placement shifts the Buddhahood of line 6 from transcendence to practicality. So, instead of staying in a very enlightened detachment, with moon in detriment, it seeks to apply correction in ways that resonate with the public and fit in the norms of society. The first theme of moon in detriment, the mundane application of the above. This is about, instead of keeping the wisdom of correction at a transcendent level, the energy here is about bringing it down to a practical, everyday level. The Buddha state that we saw in Mars's exaltation, childlike wisdom, and constant evolution is now grounded in real-world application. There may be a loss of deeper wisdom in exchange for mass appeal. Making correction is less about true refinement and more about what is socially acceptable. Now, the theme referring to the ability to tap public opinion and share methodology. This suggests a talent, a skill, an ability for communicating correction principles in ways that the public can understand. Instead of deep individual mastery, there is a focus on collective validation. The wisdom is adapted to fit popular beliefs. Thus, correction is turned into a structured, organized, teachable method rather than a personal or spiritual journey. Gate 18, line 6, with moon in detriment, takes the wisdom of correction and brings it into the realm of public understanding. Instead of pure transcendence, it seeks to apply correction in practical, socially accepted ways. Make sure that correction remains meaningful rather than just popular. A final thought for line 6, either in detriment or exaltation. For sure, we reach the highest potential of this gate in relation to wisdom, mastery, and the perfected form of correction itself. The question here is, how is this wisdom applied? Does it remain transcendent, or does it become mundane and practical? Now let's move on to a different perspective to see how the 18th gate sustains or communicates the purpose of life through the crosses of incarnation that are established when the conscious sun is placed within the 18th hexagram, right angle cross of service 3, consisting of following gates 18, 17, 52, 58. People who are part of the ongoing process of correcting, perfecting the archetypes of male and female, father, mother, opinions and corrections in service to humanity by working to make what is good better. You bring energy that says, get your stuff together. The lead energy here is correction, and this correction is about making life better and more joyful. This is not always going to be an easy message to bring to the world because not everyone is ready for correction. It may feel personal, but realize that it is not. At times, You may need to soften the delivery of your message and make sure your correction is invited by the recipient, or greater conflict will arise. You are here to shape up this world to make it a better place. Juxtaposition, cross of correction, consisting of following gates 18, 17, 39, 38. Masters at recognizing flaws in the pattern, or incompetence in everything except themselves. The ability to turn country girls into princesses. You are here to correct patterns and discover a more joyful life. You are here to do this for others. However, realize that correction is often not welcome. In order to be successful and maintain healthy relationships, you need to stick to your human design type and strategy with your communication. You need to verbalize your correction with tact and care. When you do, you can be truly wise about correction and harmony. If you don't, you may often be alone. Left angle, cross of upheaval 2, consisting of following gates 18, 17, 39, 38. People with a heretical view or a beguiling innocence, always ready to provoke, to disturb, or to challenge what isn't working. Therapists who know that therapy has to be practical to work. You are here to stir things up. Your cross brings the energy to turn things over in an effort to make things better. This is practical energy that understands that if nothing is going to change, it's not worth the effort. You are like the meek kid suddenly rising up to take on the playground bully to make a change for everyone's benefit. That is what you are here to do. I hope this material is helpful and supporting for the development of your human design knowledge. Please share if you enjoyed listening and subscribe if you want to be notified about any new posting of informative learning materials regarding human design. Thank you.